Hello, everyone. My name's Ian Elliott. I'm here at A Different Drummer Books in Burlington. I'd like to start the event this evening by noting that the point of origin for this and for all our meetings is the traditional territory, which includes the dish with one spoon territory of the Anishinaabe, Huron-Wendat, Iroquois, Métis, Ojibwe, and Haudenosaunee nations. We offer this as an acknowledgement only. It's humbly offered as a reminder of the understanding and the recognition that we seek to achieve as we honor First Peoples. I would like to welcome everyone tonight and thank you all for joining us this evening. Tonight we launch a powerful new novel from a brilliant author, and we explore and celebrate storytelling with two great practitioners of that art. And for this opportunity, we'd like to thank the publisher, Cormorant Books, and specifically their imprint, DCB Young Readers. These folks are greatly valued by booksellers, libraries, and readers everywhere. And we're going to make a particular shout out to the person who made it all happen tonight and who is actually on deck just off camera, Chantal Show. Thank you, Chantal. We're about to meet, well, actually she's on camera now, a phenomenal lifelong writer whose wonderful work is now reaching the world's readers. Her name is Sara Deward. Sara is also an educator, workshop leader, renowned and sought out for her theatrical arts and screenwriting experience and expertise. And she shares her time, her gifts, and her stories very generously with fellow Métis and Indigenous young people. Just 1 week old, burning hot out of the box is White Lies, cited by CBC Books as an essential YA book to seek out. Rightly so, it is a captivating, harrowing, vivid chronicle of the besieged life of a young person. It blazes off the page with humor, with courage, painful truth, and compassion. And we can't wait to hear more about this formidable debut novel from the creator. We're so very fortunate that leading the conversation this evening will be Maria Shankalian. What a CV Maria has. She is vice chair of Pennsylvania Film Industry Association. She's a vastly accomplished, award-winning filmmaker, writer, a SAG-AFTRA member, and a great advocate for diversity and for an end to bullying. Maria is an educator and a mentor too. She hosts celebrity masterclasses for aspiring actors and filmmakers. She runs a whole network of educational centers, organizes annual charity events, manages a food program that provides free, healthy meals to over 1,200 children from struggling families. Just staggering. So a great meeting of terrific people, of formidable minds and visions is in store. So we're now going to meet our guests. Everyone, Sara Deward and Maria Shankalian. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ian. Thank you very much. Oh, Sara, I'd like to add that Sara is also a mom to two teenagers and a fan of hip hop. And Sara is surrounded by teenagers in her life. And clearly there was a major inspiration in the book. But I know that Sara also has a lot of incredible goals on how she wants this book to affect many, many lives. So I would love to hear about the inspiration behind it, your goals, your motivation for this book.
Thank you, Maria. And thank you, Ian, for that very, very kind introduction. And you're right, it's hard to follow, Maria. Maria, you have so many wonderful accolades, and thank you for being here to host this.
My honor.
My inspiration came from, I'm surrounded by students and I've been teaching for my board for 16 years. And when you're a teacher who cares about your students, you really care about your students and you love them and you spend hours and hours and hours with them, more than your own family. They spend more time with you than their own family. And what I started to notice was that I was really affected by their mental health because it became more and more noticeable. And when you have students in a system and you don't really have the kind of mental health support that you hope for them, you tend to take that home with you. And in addition to that, you'll read their folder. Sometimes they disclose things to you if they feel like they trust you. And I just started to feel like a little overwhelmed by what was happening out there and didn't really know how to reach some of those students. And at the same time, I was dealing with some of my own mental health journey and issues. So it became double, it became compounded. And then I found that as I was going through my own journey and learning how to deal with my mental health, I thought, what is a way that I could really reach a large audience of people of that age and even older ages, how to work on their own mental health and understand their self-worth. So this idea of Missy came to me as a struggling 15-year-old who had a traumatic past. And I just thought, maybe if some people read this book and they understand and see how she's going through therapy, and to not make it a grandiose part of the book, not to make it intimidating, but just to remind them that there is help out there. And here are a couple of exercises implanted in there that maybe they'll be inspired to try. And I just hope overall they receive the message of perseverance through Missy, because it's very dark content and it's trauma and it's mental health and it's PTSD. But I think and I hope that at the core of it, it's a very humorous, persevering heroine who is managing. So
That's powerful.
that's what I think.
That's powerful. Thank you for being so brave and sharing about your own challenges as well, because it's important to show people that they're not alone, and that's wonderful. And your book is already receiving a lot of amazing feedback, and I am so honored that you've been sharing it with me, and I was so happy to read that too. I'd like to remind our participants also about the poll, which I think is a no-brainer, whether you'd like Sara to read the beginning pages of the book. So please participate in our poll. And also there is a for the Q&A, white lies. We're familiar with the concept. Have you ever shared any kind of white lies with anyone? If you're brave to share, please let us know. And in regards of this heavy subject of struggling with mental health, we all have friends who have suffered. We all know people who have suffered. If you don't mind, please share with us something. Maybe it's an inspirational quote, maybe it's your own personal word of advice that you have found helpful when you spoke to people that you care about. Now, Sara, it is so frightening to just sit down and put all your thoughts on paper, share them with the world, let it devour them, and just wait for that feedback. It's terrifying, but you're so brave, and you went ahead and did it for this amazing cause. So could you please share the process, the process of overcoming that fear of rejection, and then the process of sitting down and then page by page letting this amazing story unfold?
Sure. Originally, I was a screenwriter, and I tried to write for close to a decade, and I wrote about 13 scripts. And as a screenwriter, it's a very needle in a haystack kind of industry. And I found that there was all kinds of rejection. I was rejected, all of them were rejected, but I found that I was getting little hints of encouragement that I must be doing something okay, because I was doing all right in some competitions. I had some readers reading it and they said they liked my voice, they liked my characters, keep going. So overall, it was a positive experience, but I must say I really had to thicken my skin and be prepared for rejection, because that's really the kind of industry that it is. And then one of my screenplays was so close to getting the green light, and then it fell through. So I could go into details about how traumatizing that was to me. I think this would have happened to me just like regardless of what happened with this script, but that's when I hit my low point and fell into a depression. And it was pretty severe. And then I hit a point where I can't write. It was 2 years, and I thought, I'm going to put it away and I'm going to try something else. But I think if you're a true writer, that never really goes away. And I think I follow so many amazing writers on Twitter, and a lot of people tend to say the same thing, that they need to write. It makes them feel better. It's a form of therapy. So the writing itself was not hard. It was absolutely wonderful. I could sit and write for 7 hours in a coffee shop 100% happily. So, but the rejection piece was an interesting thing. And then when I decided to write my first novel, which is White Lies, I thought, okay, my son has soccer in the United States in Western New York every Monday. I'm going to bring my laptop. I'm going to sit down and I'm going to write this thing. And it just flows. It's like it's already a story in my head, and I'm going to sit down and I'm going to write it. So I wrote it over the course of a year. And then it came to the point where I sincerely felt proud of this. I think we know when our work is, for lack of a better word, good or not. And I knew there's something inside of me. I knew that I wanted to share this story. And I just knew that if I could get it out there, someone will like it. And that was my only goal. I just wanted someone to have some kind of emotional response to my writing. So I was going to self-publish if every publisher said no to me, but luckily, DCB Cormorant said yes. And after a few rejections from other companies, mostly it was because the material was maybe a bit too dark for them, or they weren't looking for that, or because of COVID. But then Cormorant bravely said yes, and they told me they believed in me. And that kind of feedback and that contract signing, I was a little scared because I have imposter syndrome horribly. And I thought, oh no, they're going to change their mind. They're going to write me back and say we made a mistake. And I was nervous, but it's real and it really happened. And I can't thank them enough for believing in this story with me.
It's amazing. That's really powerful. So what would be the word of advice for the aspiring writers who are starting just like you?
I would say, a student asked me that today at an author visit, and I said, I would say you have to be persistent, very hardworking. It's hard work, and you have to be willing to do the work. You can't be afraid of editing. You can't be afraid of rejection and creativity. So if I had to narrow it down to 3, I would say like persistence or perseverance, hard work, and creativity.
Yeah.
And get it done. Got to get it done, right?
Yeah, 100%. And when you started, did you already know the ending? Or did you start with the beginning and let it unfold, or in the middle and then thought of after?
It's a good question. I'm not much of an outliner. I know my friends on Twitter are going to hate me for saying that. It's always such a debate. I'm not much of an outliner, but I do let it percolate in my brain for a while. I'll think about it. I won't write anything for a few months until I feel like I have a good sense of the story and a good sense of the character. And even when I'm writing a script, I say it's already a movie in my mind, because when I finally sit down to type, all I need is time. It's not a struggle. It's not hard. It's very enjoyable. And I absolutely love it because I just feel like I'm scribing something that's already exists in my head. So I would say that you're just gonna have to, I don't know, once it's ready, you gotta birth it.
Yeah. And when you create these characters, you get to know every character like it's your friend, family member. They're yours. You know them, you see them, you understand them. Which one of the characters can you relate to the most?
I think in essence, Missy, the main character. And a lot of my friends and family who have read it, they say that they find themselves laughing while they're reading it because they can kind of hear me. So I feel like even though she's a 15-year-old, I feel like I have the same warped kind of sense of humor as her. I feel like I've relied on white lies many times in my life as a defense mechanism. And I hope I have the same perseverance as Missy. And so I think I relate most to Missy. But the supporting characters in this novel, I think, represent the people in my life who have quietly supported me, who I want to thank. Like, it was a no-brainer for me to make one of the most helpful people to Missy the caretaker at the school, because there's something pretty special about the caretakers I've met through my life, and they're like silent little heroes in the school. So I don't know. I think I relate most to Missy, but I love the supporting characters a lot.
Okay, good. And now, when a recent review that I've read mentioned that it would be a wonderful addition to the high school curriculum. So how would you see teachers? What would be your advice to teachers on how to present it properly to kids in a way that it's both helpful and relatable? Which themes do you think they should concentrate on most as they're teaching this?
Great question. So when I finished writing the book and it was in the process of being published, I wrote like a 46-page manual to go along with it because my heart is also with the teachers.
Yes.
And I know the struggle. It's a very hard job. It's a hard job. I think second to being a mom, I think it's the hardest job in the world. And so also gratifying 100%. But I mean, just so when I created the manual, I tried to think like a teacher, but also like a student. And I tried to imagine them growing culturally by reading this book. So I have references to pop culture from the past because I think that's really important. Pop culture is fun and it's important. But I also really have the thread and the idea that taking care of you is extremely important. So when I was asking the questions in the manual, I was getting them to reflect on their judgment of the book because I think it's important. I teach media literacy right now, and I think it's the best subject ever to get students to be able to read something or watch something and then dissect it and make sense of it for their own.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually think as a tool, I want them to judge and criticize and learn about their way of thinking and what they believe through this as a vessel. And so that's kind of how I formed the questions. And I kind of hope that whenever a teacher presents a book in their curriculum, I hope that they know that it's okay if the kids don't agree. It's okay if the kids don't enjoy the book. It's okay. But if they do, it's just the process of them learning more about themselves based on a piece of art. So just like how I approach art in my life, I just think if you don't force it and make it about their learning rather than what you're teaching, then I think it'll be a nice experience.
Mm-hmm. And you covered a sensitive topic that adults often look at as not a big deal because we date, we eventually marry, things are okay, they happen, breakups are not a big deal, but they're a big deal. And love is a big deal and romance is a big deal at this age, as it is in every age. And you found a way to really show teenage romance, even though you're a parent of teenagers, but you found a way to show it through the kids' eyes. How was that process for you, just writing it as being a teenager again?
Well, like I said, they're around me all the time. So I like to people watch and I like to really understand what a student's going through. And I always remember they're just kids. So when I approached this first romance, I kind of mingled like more adult themes of what it's like to be able to be vulnerable and to let someone in. And that's a struggle for Missy because she's had a very distressing upbringing and very like traumatic things happen in her life. So I kind of think through the banter between the two of them, I tried to maintain a sense of consent. I tried to make Luke a character who has an edge, but also has a heart, because I see it all the time. And I've always maintained there's no such thing as a bad child. I think it's either too much sugar or not enough sleep or the kind of upbringing they've had. I just don't think a bad child exists. So when I thought about this relationship and this romance, I wanted to approach it as in two people who have their guards up. Will they be able to help take each other's guards down?
Yeah, it's deep. It's really powerful to read, I think, both for adults and for kids, because it helps parents understand their kids better, and it helps kids to understand their emotions better. So that, I think that's the amazing thing about your book, that it helps both age groups. So it's wonderful. Now, how do you see, and again, this is a difficult question for writers who are also screenwriters. Do you see your book being brought to screen? Would you want to be the screenwriter for your own book, or would you want a different voice to take your book and bring it to screen through a different perspective? How do you see the future of your book in that sense?
Really good question. And it's interesting because until you just said it, I never thought I'd want anybody else to write a screenplay other than me. But when you put it like that, that was actually very intriguing. And I think that that would be fun too. But my heart is, I love screenwriting and I would love to bring Missy to the screen. However, I don't think it would work well as a movie, maybe. It's hard to say, but I see it more as a strong character, maybe as a television show or a series with the essence of Missy, rather than an hour and a half feature. I can't really see it. I have an idea for my next novel that I picture being more plot driven and more cinematic. So it's hard for me to think of this as much as I love films.
Yeah.
I don't know if this would make a good film. I think it would make a great television series with her as a character. But if it came down to it and there was demand and people wanted to see that, because I love character driven movies, 100%. They're my favorite. And if I had to say a tagline for my favorite films, the taglines actually sound quite boring because they're just character stories. Like, look, if you had to say what Rocky was about, a guy wants to be a better boxer, right? So could it be a movie? Yes, but I would love to turn my work into a screenplay. But I also think that having other voices and other input would be a beautiful thing. So kind of a mix between both of your suggestions. I'd love to do it. Maybe that's why it would be great in a writer's room for television or something, because I imagine other people who loved Missy could bring even more to the story.
Yeah. I want to encourage our guests to participate in our chat room. We'd love to hear your advice. And we also, if you're brave enough, would love to hear the name of that first teenage crush and bring all those memories back. So if you're brave, please feel free to share. Looks like overwhelming answers on our poll are yes, yes, yes. So I think many of you are going to get a unique opportunity to hear the book from the writer herself. And Sara, would you like to read us the first few pages of the book?
Sure. Should I do that now?
Would you like, I mean, we still have a few questions, but I also would like to encourage questions from our audience. So don't be shy. Sara is here to answer all your questions. And as you can see, Sara is open to any questions that you have about the book, about the writing process, about the breaking in as a writer process, which is a whole separate process. And as a matter of fact, if you want to share, and everybody has a different path to contacting the different companies that could push you forward, publicists, there's so much that goes into it. So how did you start? Did you start with query letters? Did you start by phone calls, sending muffins to the offices? Everybody has their own way. So what was your secret way to get in with the whole no solicitation process?
Well, actually, I looked up which Canadian companies were accepting unsolicited manuscripts because I thought I might as well at least look at who would actually open this thing. And so during COVID, because I signed the contract 16 months ago, so during COVID, there were 6. So I hear stories about J.K. Rowling being rejected hundreds of times for J.K. Rowling. I had 6 chances. And I thought, those odds are low, but I still believed in it and I still wanted to try. And I almost am that little bit, well, maybe a lot naive, just enough to be brave. And so I thought I'm going to send it to those 6 because there were only 6. Luckily, the biggest piece of luck, and I think in every success story you have that little bit of that horseshoe. I was able to get it onto the pile of the publisher's company. So it was still on that pile, and it took 6 months for me to hear if it was a yes. But I just was brave. I just thought, this is my work. I believe in it. And because I've been rejected so many times with screenplays, I thought, if it gets rejected, I'm still doing this. I'm going to self-publish. Like I wasn't going to, I could have taken all their no's, but I wasn't going to take a no from myself. I knew too much that someone would like this story. So I guess my process was just taking my shot, and I wrote emails to the people who were accepting them, and I attached a PDF of my manuscript. And then Cormorant DCB, which is an imprint of Cormorant in Toronto, it was 6 months went by, and I, as a courtesy, I said, just letting you know, I haven't heard from you yet, but I am going to self-publish this. So I'm just writing as a courtesy. And then they wrote me back and said, we're on page 84. Please don't yet. And then I was like, oh my goodness, because it was the best moment ever. Because I was just expecting them to maybe not say anything, or maybe say, no, thank you. Thanks for letting us know. When they said we're on page 84, it kind of brought me back in a scary way to when that one script was almost greenlit. Mentally, I had to be very careful not to be, it's like I wanted to be happy, but I didn't want to get my hopes up. And then another month went by, and I thought, it's got to be a no. So I said, just one more message, because what we have to realize as writers, there's a fine line. People are extremely busy, and they get so much material, but they might forget they're humans and life is crazy. So you don't want to be pushy. You always want to be kind. And if time has gone by and you think maybe they did forget, just maybe send a kind email reminder. And then that's what I would say. Don't be pushy, always be kind, and don't overstep your grounds. But if it seems like maybe a follow-up feels natural and feels organic and feels like maybe they did just forget, try your shot, but be kind. And then they said, no, we're going to be in touch with you in a week. We're going to send you a contract. And then my mind was blown. It was like, I can't believe I'm signing a contract for my first book.
Aww.
So that was my process.
Yeah. Did you have to change a lot once it was accepted? Were there any requests, or it was just, this is perfect?
There were some, like the editors were amazing. The crew, it's a small publishing house. It's a small team, a small but mighty team, and so kind, and it feels like a family. And I don't have an agent, so I was kind of maneuvering this myself, and they sat me down for an hour and went through the whole contract with me, explained everything. And it was really wonderful. And I think that, I don't know, I forget the question because I just got sidetracked with
no. The changes. It's always terrifying when the changes are requested.
So their changes were amazing because I incorporated some characters of different backgrounds and different nationalities, and I tried to be multicultural in a loving way. Some of my ways of incorporating characters, they were very helpful with suggestions to make sure that I without any intention, ways that I wasn't seeming like I was stereotyping, because 100% that's not my intention, but I'm only a human who knows my experiences. So they had a more worldly view and very good advice for, this is beautiful that you're approaching things multiculturally, but maybe instead of them owning this, or instead of them saying this, what if you try to think bigger? So I really appreciate that advice, because they honored the fact that I wanted multicultural characters, and at the same time they were helpful with advice.
Yeah.
So that's all really some like little things, grammar things, and really great editing, finding things like they're like, oh, on page 54, you said this word, you kind of said it 20 pages ago, maybe. And I was like, wow, like,
impressive.
They knew that thing inside out and backwards. And it was so exciting to think that somebody invested that time in my work. So, but they're amazing. So.
No, it's wonderful, because it's always the most painful part for any writer is when they look at it like, this scene, I'm not sure it's important. And you pour your heart and soul into that scene.
Yeah, no, they didn't do that. And I always say, as a writer, it's the only time in the world where you show people your baby and people say it's ugly. So it's like, I just spent 9 months with this. What do you mean? But no, they either really liked it or that's their style. I'm not really sure, but no, the stuff I believed in, the stuff my heart, and they never said you have to. It was always, these are our suggestions. Like they're noted as suggestions. You either accept or decline the suggestion. It was a wonderful process. And I was new to it all. And they were walking my hand, like holding my hand through it and guiding me. It was great.
That's
Very
amazing.
happy.
That's wonderful.
Oh, someone's telling us about their first crush.
Yes. Go,
Nice.
Marnie.
Oh, look at that. Couple crushes. I love it.
And go, Emily.
Oh, there's actually stories here. I love them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not
Oh.
just names. You
No.
brave.
Oh, that's
so
great.
nice. That's good. See, I told you this book is going to bring adults back to their childhood years, and I mean teenage years. Childhood was now, but teenage. No, it's wonderful. Now, what have you discovered about your own writing voice as you've started this journey from beginning to the end?
I'm discovering it more now than ever. I always kind of had some pride in my voice and my characters. And I find that now I'm more aware of the audience. I'd say that I wasn't aware of the audience piece forever. I just kind of wrote what I wanted to write because I thought if it's a movie or a story that I'd like to read, I'm sure someone's going to love to read it because I know my taste isn't that odd. So when I came down, now I notice, like, even as I'm reading my book, I'm like, oh, I wonder if I would have changed that if I were thinking more about audience. So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. And as I'm writing my next one, I'm on page like 110 of my next one. And I'm like, okay, I should bump this part up because I think I can do better. I think I can say that with more symbolism, or I think I could say that with more room to make an inference. And so I'm hoping that's a good thing, that I'm more aware, but I don't know. I don't know.
It's all a process.
Yeah.
And once it's done, it's like with makeup, you come out and you're still thinking you need to fix
That's
something.
a bit much.
No, I was stuck on mine, don't worry. See, my hair keeps going back. No, but really, it's a process. The writing process, you always want to perfect yourself, and somebody's going to look and think it's a masterpiece. But you, because it's your own baby, you always want to make it look better.
Yeah.
But now a question to you and to our audience. To you, the question is, where do you like to write and what inspires you in the process? Question to our audience is, where do you plan to read and what is the most moving and the powerful place for you to read books? Where do you plan to read the White Lies?
Yeah, I'd love to see in the poll, where do you, if you're going to read White Lies, where do you find yourself enjoying to read the most? For myself, for writing, I love writing in a Starbucks or a Tim Hortons or a coffee shop. There's a really great one in St. Catharines called the Brazen Cafe, and I just discovered it, and I know I'm going to go back there. But I'll sit in a Tim Hortons, I'll sit in the Starbucks. I can't write at home very well because it's too quiet. I can't put on music because then I want to listen. I can't put on the television because I want to watch. So, but if it's too quiet, I can't concentrate. I found the coffee shop ambient noise is my favorite because I don't really have to pay attention. I feel like I'm still in society. I feel like I'm not alone, but I'm not distracted. And I could sit there for 7-8 hours and not even move. I don't think they want me there that long. And I don't think my $2.
Yeah, but people watching, that's where your best people watching is happening.
Yeah, that's true. And I don't think Tim Hortons is happy that I bought a $2 tea and I sit there all day, but no one seems to complain, and it's never busy enough that I'm taking up someone's seat, but that's my favorite place to write.
That's wonderful. And shout out to Christine for sharing the quote. And the favorite quote of Christine's is from Malcolm X: "When eyes replaced with we, even illness becomes wellness." Wow, that's an amazing quote. Thank you for sharing it. It's really moving.
Thanks, Chrissy.
Yes.
That's nice.
A lot of kind words over there for Sara. Thank you, Bev. Thank you, Valerie. Wonderful.
So maybe I should read now because we're nearing the end and I want to see if they have any questions for me so I can read a couple pages. I'll just read the opening. I was debating which part to read. I didn't want to give anything away. I didn't know. So I'm just going to read the opening.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay.
Okay.
So, White Lies. I feel like I'm in my classroom. White light.
I'm gonna turn off my screen just so
Okay.
that's right there for
Right.
everyone.
Asking the impossible. My legs are crossed, like a lady, apparently. The leg that crosses over my other leg sways forward and back like a Newton's cradle, constant, rhythmic, reliable, unlike my brain right now. Missy? Dr. Tandalay looks at me from behind her crystal blue eyes. Clear conscience, I bet. She holds her gaze with the patience of a saint. For a moment, I engage in a staring contest. Who will blink first, I wonder? Eventually, she blinks. I gloat, still the champ. Excuse me? Dr. Tandalay is rightfully confused. It wasn't the answer she was looking for to this week's icebreaker regarding how my therapy homework went. I used to play staring contests with my mom. Now that I'm older, I know she didn't stand a chance. I digress. Why? She asks me. Because you blinked first. I mean, why didn't she stand a chance? I shrug. I don't dare tell a doctor. I don't care what kind of doctor she is, that my mom's bloodshot, dry, squinting eyes made her my helpless opponent. I definitely don't want to talk about how often she got high that last year when she was still at home. Missy? She blinked a lot. I end the subject. Dr. Tandalay has this annoying tactic of waiting for my response way longer than an average person ever would. She gives me 3 times the think time of the most well-trained teacher. So I always exercise my tactic of not answering. Dr. Tandalay adjusts the lapel on her power suit and then jots something onto a paper that is clipped to a blue board with happy face stickers all over its back. I find it also distracting. The blue board doesn't make sense to me because it's a sad color, making the yellow happy faces seem contrived and ironic. Look, I'm sorry I didn't do my task. I mean it when I say it. Didn't or couldn't? There's a big difference, Missy. Dr. Tandalay does that thing with her face where her eyebrows read familiar disappointment, but her frown kind of gets me. I tried. I stretched the truth. I know you assigned me to say positive things about myself for you, but for you, the doctor clarifies. I couldn't, okay? Every time I tried to think of something good to say about myself, I felt like a fraud. Missy, you've been coming here for almost a year. You're close to 16. We still have quite a ways to go. One obstacle that is holding you back is the way you see yourself. I'm pretty sure that's not it. You're too hard on yourself. Who isn't? Dr. Tandalay beats a dead horse. There are plenty of wonderful things about you. It isn't lying per se. It's being conscious of what you believe is the truth until you can see the actual truth clearly. She pauses, hoping that sinks in with me. It drowns me. What are your parents like, Dr. Tandalay? She lifts her board to jot another note. The happy faces mock me. With each stroke of her perfectly sharpened pencil, they dance. Do you want to talk about your parents? She asks. I want to talk about your parents. That would be a waste of our hour, she says. I look up at the clock. I only have 5 minutes left. Missy, I have an idea. She reaches into a side bin of small electronic devices and pulls out something the size of a Snickers bar. This is a personal recording device. You just press this button to start recording your voice and this one to stop. I'd like you to retry the same assignment, but so that you don't feel like you're talking into an abyss, you can talk into this. I can just use my phone. I hold up my cracked, ancient iPhone. She pretends not to hear me. Use this and try for 1 self-compliment per day. Do you think you can do that for me, for you this week? I stare at her without blinking, and I play out our last 4 minutes with some think time. And that's it. That's the opening chapter.
I want to keep listening. I'm staying.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's very relatable. You immerse in the story and you're there. You see them. Just the way you describe it, you see them. It's like you're in that room. It was fantastic.
The way it's hard to read aloud because her thoughts are just in plain text. So when I read it aloud, maybe the reader isn't sure if she's saying it out loud or in her head. But when you're reading it, you can see that most of her thoughts are actually in her head. Yeah. And that's something through the book that you'll see is something that's important. So.
No, it was clear and it was very relatable. It's like you see through her eyes. It was very powerful. Thank you, Sara.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you to the comments. That's nice.
Yeah, I was going to say there's a lot of great comments over there. Thank you, Bev, and thank you, Valerie.
Thank you.
All right, wonderful. Wow, that was really moving, Sara. You're immensely inspiring, and just the way you're changing lives in the classroom and now outside of classroom, you're really making a difference for many people. And you already started another book.
Yes.
Continuing to make a difference. So do you mind sharing a few words about that upcoming book?
Sure. Well, it's still just one of those ones that's sitting in my laptop. There's no, it's not out there to the world. No publishers have seen it, but I did receive a grant from the Ontario Arts Council, and DCB Cormorant Books believed in me, and ECW Press believed in me. So I received a grant from the government, believing in my story. So it's a dystopian story this time, and the main character is a 17-year-old male named Darius. And I created a whole world. It's so different from White Lies. I'm not sure if I'm shooting myself in the foot. I don't know. It's a story I've been wanting to tell. I had it written as a script years ago, and grade 8 and grade 9 students loved it. So I'm turning it into a novel, and it's a dystopian society that controls everything, which I know we've seen before, but this boy Darius wants to save his little sister from her impending death date. So it's completely different, but I'm really excited.
Very different,
Yeah.
but very intriguing. So
yeah, thank you.
Can't wait for that one too. But now back to White Lies. A word of guidance for the educators as a fellow educator. What to look for, what to not disregard, and how to help when they see like certain signs that you've noticed that actually inspired you to write White Lies, where you feel like I can really change this kid's life. Something for the fellow educators.
I would say to my fellow educators, I hope that you are able to remember that they're just kids.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we tend to focus on what needs to be accomplished. And I don't know if this makes me a good teacher or a bad teacher, but
Good.
If we're having trouble making a kid write a paragraph or use proper punctuation or capitals or first essay or handing in his homework, I think we should never lose sight of the fact that they're just a kid and they need our love more than anything. And they need to feel safe. I grew up as a child who did not feel safe, and now I have mental health issues because of it. And I think you need to really recognize those kids who need you more than ever. And our job, I wish we had more support, but it is on us a lot of the times to make that child feel that they're important. And I beg you to please remember that every day.
Thank you. That was moving. And any kind of, I guess, ideas for the principals to add that support into the schools that you think maybe you already kind of had certain ideas or plans that you would want to suggest? Is there something that you'd like to share as maybe a guidance?
I think one-on-one is important for help. Our models tend to be going towards large group, but I think when you make it a large group and you're trying to help with mental health things, I feel like it doesn't get to that kid. So I think one-on-one time is important, making them feel special. And I want to make short films with my students because I find that the act of writing a script and creating a short film is something I aspire to do. So I find that these kids really tend to come alive during drama activities and writing activities. So once COVID is over and all those stipulations are done, I'd like to get back to creating things with these students. And I'd like to focus on Métis students and Indigenous kids to kind of give them an outlet.
Wow, that's incredible. These are amazing ideas. I'm so glad that you shared them. Thank you, Sharon, for your kind words. Thank you, Bev, again.
Thank you. Do we have any questions before we go? I see little I'm just not sure.
There is a question about the scenes. Is there a scene that was hardest for you to write? Again, of course, without revealing things,
Yes.
but was there something that was most difficult for you to write?
Yeah, I'd say the scenes with her father. I grew up, my mom dated an alcoholic for years, and I don't want to say too much about him because he's still alive, and I don't want him to feel awful if he hears this or reads this. But when I was writing the scenes between Missy and her dad, that was very tricky for me because I tried to capture in the state under the influence how you can make a kid feel very uncomfortable, even though you don't do anything horrible, but it's trying on a kid, and especially someone who's trying to discover themselves and learn about themselves. It can be a very scary disease to be growing up with an alcoholic who has a tendency to be violent and negative and mentally and verbally abusive. So I find those scenes were hardest for me, but also very cathartic. So
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Emily, for that question. And when you had the book idea, did you first come up with characters or did you first come up with plot? Question from Michaela. Thank you.
thanks, Michaela. I don't remember. I just started writing. She was just in my head and the story was in my head. All I had to do was give her a name.
Mm-hmm. And do you think there will be a sequel?
A lot of people who are reading it are asking me, they're like, well, now what? And I didn't expect that. I just thought it was done, and I thought it was, I like leaving some room at the end for the reader to interpret and create something for what happens after. I think if I were ever to do a sequel, I'd like to make it about Missy in her 40s,
Mm-hmm.
what her life looks like. Does it look how the reader imagined? Why is it the way it is? So if I ever write a sequel, I don't think it would be directly after. I think it would be like 30 years later.
Yeah. Okay. I guess we'll have to wait a little bit, but we're going to be looking forward to that one. Thank you, Victoria, for that question. And very interesting question also from Michelle. How did you know that the book was ready? And did you have teens beta read it? And I think that goes back to your comments about perfecting and even reading afterwards and trying to perfect as a masterpiece, like a piece of art where you always want to add details. But when did you know, enough, ready to go?
I felt it when I don't do a lot of rewrites.
Mhm.
I do one or two big, good, strong rewrites. And I knew the second time when I was done doing a pass through it,
Mhm.
a couple parts made me laugh out loud and a couple parts made me cry. So I thought, if I've reached a point with this that I made myself cry, which was a very surreal, weird moment for me, then I think it's ready. I think that there are amazing, brilliant writers out there who have so many unfinished works that they just need to relax a little bit and get it done, because it's never done. Someone's going to read it and then you're going to have to do changes. But I just feel like one thing a writer needs to do is get it done, because I'm sure there are brilliant works out there that are just half done because the writer just can't finish it. I'm a good finisher. I feel like that's how I was for my scripts. It would take me a month to write a script. And then I was like, you know what? It's always going to have to change, but I think that it's good. So I'm going to put this out there. And so that's kind of when I knew it was ready, when I made myself laugh and I made myself cry.
Oh, that's powerful. And the question that let me just see. It was about the edits. Valerie shared that question. I remember we covered edits, and you said that thankfully there wasn't that many. But Valerie was wondering whether there was any edit that you decided against following.
No, they were such beautiful suggestions. I think, I can't remember exactly. There might have been one. I forget what it was. There was one thing that I kind of stuck to, but they just made a very light suggestion. And I don't remember what it was now, but I remember saying, no, I really want the audience to discover that,
Yeah.
or to come to that conclusion on their own. So I don't remember what it was, but I think there was one, and I stuck to my guns on it, but it wasn't a very big deal. It's just,
Mhm.
yeah. Other than that, they were very helpful. I think they loved Missy's story too. They didn't want to mess with it. They showed me that they enjoyed it. They made me feel that they loved Missy's story. So any of their suggestions just made it better.
Yeah, that's good. I
Mhm.
see that we have more amazing comments over there. Thank you, Lay.
Yeah, I'm seeing some names here. Thank you to all of you for coming. Like, I'm seeing names that a lot of writers here, and it's really warming my heart. My best friends in there, some students are in there. It's just really amazing because writers have been incredible, and
Yeah.
so much support I'm feeling with my debut novel and through Canscape, that community. And like Eric Walters helped me right at the beginning, and he didn't need to, you know. And I have like Paul Kochia and all the wonderful people at Canscape, and some screenwriters I see in here telling me they're here, and it's just really warming my heart. So thank
Yeah.
you.
And one more question we have from the audience, from Bev, on balancing teaching, writing, and parenting.
It doesn't exist. I feel
How
like
do you do that?
I feel like I never have it right. I maintain this. I thank my kids in the inscription of the book, because I know that chasing my dream took its toll. I'm going to try not to get emotional when I always get emotional when I talk about my kids, but like, I feel like when I was doing a really good job teaching, my writing was suffering. When I was feeling I was doing a really good job writing, my momness was suffering. Like, I feel like I don't know that balance. I feel like I'm just praying for forgiveness from all the people around me, that they understand that I have to write, and hopefully it's making me a better mom. I don't think I can do them simultaneously, but I hope I'm doing them enough that I'm doing it. But I don't know if there's such a thing.
No, you're doing something immensely challenging, but by writing this kind of books, you're helping a lot of other moms as well. So
Help them.
you're doing an incredible job. And it was truly an honor to learn so much about you and your path and your book and your future books. And then I feel like we're very special that we kind of got like some inside knowledge on what's coming. So it's been fantastic. The last word to our audience.
Yes, thank you. I just want to say a few thank yous so much, because on that note, I want to thank DCB, the imprint of Cormorant in Toronto, Sara, Chantel, Mark, and Barry. That's it. It's you, and you're the team, and you've been so great to me over the past 16 months, and I thank you so much for believing in Missy's story, and for bringing it to the page, and for getting it out there. And I'm so excited. I'm just so excited, and thank you for believing in me and her story. Thank you to Ian, the host of tonight from A Different Drummer Books, and for affiliating with this launch. I'm so excited to meet you, and I can't wait to come. And actually, if you want to purchase books through A Different Drummer Books, Chantel just put the link in the chat. Anybody who purchases through that link, I'm going to sign them before he ships them. So thank you, Ian, for being here and for that wonderful introduction. And I'm so happy you read the book, and that's so sweet. And I can't wait to come meet you and sign any books that are purchased here tonight. So again, if you click that link, I'm going to go sign them before Ian ships them. Maria, thank you so much. Our mutual friend, David, I said to him, I need your help. I want to find someone great to interview me. And David is this fantastic mentor to me. And within seconds, he sent me your name. He spelled it wrong. I had no idea how to find you. I was like, what are you trying to type? I thought he was like, I don't know what was happening. And then I was like, okay. And then the second I met you, I feel like this kinship, and I feel like you amaze me. And your short film that won awards is beautiful. And the philanthropy you do, and now you're helping your brother and your mom. And I'm just like, I loved having you here. And I was so nervous, but then I just sat down and I took a deep breath. I'm like, I'm in good hands. Maria is amazing at what she does. And you're such a beautiful person inside and out. So thank you so much.
You're making me blush.
Oh, well, good. And then at the last people I'd like to thank is everybody who came tonight, and seeing your names again just really warms my heart. And I'm so thankful to be part of this community. I've been in the screenwriting world for a long time, and they've been amazing. Now I get to be in the young adult author world. And when Ian called me an author at the beginning, I'm not used to hearing that. And it just made me feel amazing, and such wonderful people. And to all my students who came tonight, and I see my best friends in here and other writers, and just thank you so much for being part of this journey with me and for coming tonight to celebrate with me. And just for the opportunity for me to talk about myself and to tell you about Missy and her story. So thank you, everybody. And thank you, Chantel, for everything you've been doing behind the scenes.
Thank you, Sara. It's been truly an honor for all of us involved to be here and to hear your story and to feel it, and especially to be there when you read it, because coming from you, I'm sure all of us share that, but we could really see it and feel it as Missy. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, on behalf of the Different Drummer Books and Cormorant Books, DCB Young Readers, well, you've said it all so eloquently. There's really not much to add, but it's been a really illuminating, inspiring hour. It's been a lot of joy to be among the many participants tonight. Thank you everyone for your contributions. Thank you so much, Sara, for sharing your life and your truly brilliant work. Thank you, Maria, for the magnificent way you conducted the session tonight, and for all the great insights you led us to. And of course, thank you on behalf of all of us to you, Sara, and to you, Maria, for your wonderful company tonight. And yes, I commend White Lies to everyone. And however you get the book, please get the book and please read it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Please be well, everyone.
Thank you.